All right, I think we're almost live. Just checking here on Facebook and double check. Yep. Let me make one click here. And we should be good. Okay. Good morning. Thank you for joining us back here for Educators Drinking Coffee. We were picked up for another week to broadcast this. It is a beautiful, actually, Sunday morning out here after, I guess, the tropical storm Arthur came by. Lots of rain, but we made it through. Hopefully y'all made it through. All right. So let me know, those of you on Facebook or YouTube, that it is transmitting there. I always just want to double check. It should be. This morning, I had the pleasure of having one of our teachers here from Pasquotank County High School, Master Sergeant Coffey. And I'll let him just, I guess, even though I said your name, but just go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good morning, sir. My name is Master Sergeant Mitchell Coffey, retired. I am one of two instructors at Pasquotank High School ROTC. I've been there for, this is my end of my second year instructing there at high school, and I love the job. I enjoy the engagement of high schoolers with my 60-year-old mind. They're a trip, and they're very sharp, and a lot of the kids are very receptive to the ideas I share with them, and yeah, I think it's really exciting for them and for us. What's in store for them now, it's sometimes beyond our own control, but we're here to help them out through it.
Very true, very true. And one thing I do appreciate from you is the fact that you talked about, being 60 years young, but you're always willing to learn. You have this wealth of experience just personally, but then also this military experience, but you're in a different field now, and you don't have all the answers, but you're always looking to find answers. You're always asking questions about things you don't understand, and that's something that doesn't happen enough in education, because once we have that degree, we're hired to do the job. Many people feel like, okay, I'm supposed to know everything. And I tell beginning teachers all the time, you're not supposed to. I had that experience actually as an administrator. The first time I went for a job interview, actually, we were in college trying to do our interviews to get placed for our internship. And I went, and I was the first one in my cohort to go for the interview. It's like 7:40. And I was asked the question about testing. And I'll be honest with you, Master Sergeant Coffey, I had no clue. I thought, okay, do I try to just make up things here or what? And I decided, you know what? I just got to be honest. So I said, look, I don't know. But what I will tell you is I will find the right person to ask to find out, and I'll come back with you the answer. So one administrator there, he says, Juan, you're not supposed to know. How are you? You're just getting started. But he said, I appreciate your honesty. Good morning, Ms. McDaniels. Thanks for joining us this morning. So, and I say that because that means that gave me so much confidence. I was nervous at the beginning of that interview. Good morning, Madre. My mom she's on YouTube. She watches. But it gave me the confidence for the rest of the interview, and I felt really confident. I could see, at least the way I projected was a lot more confident than I was at the first couple of questions. So, and I say that to you because, again, you're a professional, but you're fairly new to the field, and you're still learning, and you're open to that, and that's a big help. Good morning, Mr. Tripp. Oh, I'm trying to think. Mr. Tripp is another military. He was in the Navy. We had some talks about that when he worked with me at Pactola. So, good guy. So today, again, we have Master Sergeant Coffey. He's one of our JROTC instructors at our school. So before we continue, though, what are you drinking this morning?
Today, I'm drinking organic Central American coffee. Okay, it's organic. Got it from Costco. It's just ground yesterday. It's awesome.
Awesome. Well, good. Well, I am drinking, I'm biased to Colombian coffee.
Of course.
Yeah. And I bring some of those from to school, and the one I'm drinking this week is the same one as yesterday. It's actually called La Florida. and it's a small coffee farm just on the outskirts of Medellin, where I come from. And it's really good, actually. I'm surprisingly good. Now, it's a shame I only have this one bag, which probably just, at the rate I'm going, it's gonna last me just till Thursday. But
you have like the special commodities of this coffee that when you bring it in and you make the coffee from time to time, it is distinctively good. And I could smell it through the halls. I said, making coffee. It's really good.
Oh, Mr. Tripp talked about submarines. Him and I talked about submarines one time at school, because he says that when he was Navy, they, I guess a Colombian Navy needed help with one of their submarines, and he was there to help. I said, I hope you were sure they were the Colombian, Marine Navy, because I don't know with submarines. I know other industries that use submarines in Colombia for the wrong thing. But,
yes, they do. Yeah, they really do. Very effectively.
Yeah, but yeah, no, yeah, the coffee is great. Like I said, I'm pretty biased, but coffee's good. I mean, I know there's coffee from is it Somalia that's really good, of course, from Hawaii. I really want to learn more about coffee, and I don't know if I mentioned this in the broadcast, but a couple of years ago, I went to the coffee region in Colombia called Quindío. And it's like the perfect height, perfect temperature, perfect shade, to make coffee. And the guy in the, and it's shame because he's telling me the way the trend is going is actually like plantains is where they're making more money than with coffee. He says if you think about the price of coffee, really has gone up, but not considerably a whole lot in the last 20 or so years. So as other things, the price goes up, but coffee hasn't gone up. But plantains has. But the whole process of planting the seed to the moment it gets to our cup is about 2 years.
Really?
Yeah. I went through the whole process. It is really neat. I did find it funny that I paid probably about $20 to go pick coffee, and I'm like, I'm paying to go to work. It seems kind of oxymoron, but it was enlightening to learn about coffee. I just thought it was really cool. I got some really cool pictures, the whole process, and got to toast the coffee. That is the best, or one of the best smells ever. When you kind of go through the process, but then when it's still in the wet process, of course, it has to dry for whatever length of time. But then they give you the dried beans, and then you got to take like the little shell. It's kind of like the onion shell, the very flaky stuff. Right. And there's a process to take it out, and then you start roasting it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the smell, the aroma. It is like none. I want to say that was 2 years ago, and I don't know if it's any good, but I still have some of that coffee that I roasted personally.
Really? That's pretty awesome. I had been into Hawaii many times, and the Kona coffee is renowned to be really good coffee. And I made a point of getting some Kona coffee, not at the local Waikiki, visitor shop. I actually went into the communities and got some, at a regular grocery store, some Kona coffee, what the locals would drink.
That's awesome.
And you know what? It's for me, it's overrated. It's overrated. And I've had it many times. It's expensive coffie. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Yeah. Maybe I just didn't get the right bag. I don't know.
I don't know.
A couple of times, but I've had many, many, many good cups of good Colombian coffee and Central American coffee.
Yeah. And there is. Somebody here, Terry, talked about it. She went through a similar process in Costa Rica. I know Costa Rica also. They have coffee from a local farm. And that's awesome. And that's what I've gone recently. I've taken my family, and we traveled. We went into El Quindío, and there, since it's a coffee, all these local farms, and they all make their own, brand of coffee. And that's what we did. We got several brands, and it was good. It helps the local community. I like getting the beans, the actual coffee beans, and then grinding them.
Yes.
Again, that was good. This one came already kind of blended and things like that. But all right, let's talk about coffee. So let's switch. Today we wanted to talk about, we've been in this for now, I think 10 or so weeks.
Yeah.
this remote learning. Now, we know it hasn't gone the same as face-to-face. You know, not every student is participating. So we've created, not by our own choosing, a gap in learning. So what are your thoughts about that? I guess we wanted to talk about, you know, how, when we start next year, what are some things you've been thinking about, you know, as far as trying to catch up kids?
Well, I had a couple of thoughts. I can always identify there's a gap in their learning structure. There's a gap there. Are we going to recognize the gap and try to fill that gap in along the way of educating our students next semester on par for where they should be at in their specific grades? This has exposed a major void in their educational base. Some kids, one-on-one, they've told me that I'm totally lost. I don't know what I'm doing, and it's evident, you know, they haven't done anything. Some kids have told me, and it's displayed in their work, I'm trying. This is really hard for me. I'm trying, and I can see instead of like an essay or a paragraph, I see a sentence or somewhat of a structured sentence, something more than kind to a text message in response to an essay. So how long should we actually delve into and expose their deficiencies in order to make them up to standard? Because many of them aren't there. And in my class on ROTC, we emphasize writing abilities and speaking abilities. And it's been evident to us that in general, they don't write well. Now, it's clearly known throughout the school, most of our kids don't write well. They don't know how to structure a paper. So I think being incumbent upon us as teachers and instructors to assist these kids to get into it, because who knows if next semester they'll be online or thereafter. If they're going to pursue online education in college or a skill set, they might be forced to do more online education.
Yeah, you know, you talk about this. This has created, you know, a gap, and you think about it. You know, if we're still around 12 years from now, our kindergartners, if nothing's done to, you know, to shorten that gap or to catch them up, we at top, meaning at the high school level, are still going to be facing from this, you know, era, the issue of the gap in learning. So you're right. We have to figure out a way. I know with, you know, one thing I've done a lot since we've been on break is read articles, read, you know, what are, you know, superintendents thinking, what are administrators thinking, what are some of our leaders, and you know, some of the things that I keep hearing is, you know, as far as thinking about extending the school year, you know, to help, again, to add more time to catch up. Those are some thoughts and ideas being thrown around. Extending the school day even to make up for lost time. You know, possibly having some sort of concurrent program that works on some of those skills from last year with the current skills, and that other the ones that's working on skills from last year will somehow be calculated into their current grade. So it's almost as I'm working here, maybe face to face, I do an online course based on last year. It's not the most ideal, but something to that nature to help. Online courses, I don't know if they're the best avenue for that, but I mean, we got to think of ideas. We got to think of ways. The other thing that made me think when you were talking about that is we have to make sure that if we're doing online next year to whatever extent, it has to be more effective than it is now.
Affirmative.
You know what I mean? So, you know, yesterday I talked a little bit about being reflective and, you know, or lessons learned. I think we really have to, coming up here to the end of this year, is really have a sit down. And I hate that because I say that, but there's nothing like a sit down that me and you can be right here at this table talking and be able to throw out ideas. It's just not quite the same. As much as I'm glad to see you and everything, it's not the same, because we always have to pause a little bit for your thoughts and my thoughts.
Yeah.
But to be able to sit down and really say, okay, let's analyze the last 3 months of school. What went well, what didn't, and why didn't it go well?
Right.
Right. And what can we do to improve or to close some of those gaps? I think, and I mentioned this before, one of the first things we have to look at is students' accessibility, because I know you've ran into that.
Yes, sir.
How can we, because if we continue or do remote learning, it's all for good, but if a student doesn't have access to internet or doesn't have a device, we're in the same boat.
I don't take it the wrong way. Maybe this is not the best forum, but you made me think of something.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of our kids in high school, 9th through 12th, most of them have cell phones. Not all of them, but I'd say the vast majority of our kids have cell phones.
Yeah.
Identifying the fact that, all right, some kids don't have access to a PC. I got that. There is a population that don't. However, they have cell phones. If they have a cell phone, they can do something online. All right, and that's a cop out. I'm calling it like it is. They have a cell phone. They can text. That's a cop out there. They're not jamming because hey, they don't have access to internet. All right, so for 3 months they got off. That's not going to happen next year, bud.
No, there has to be a little bit more accountability.
Yes.
I mean, I agree that they do have cell phones. But I guess my only thing is that there is a difference between being able to do quality work on a cell phone compared to a laptop or Chromebook. So, and that is, that to me, as we try, and I know we can't do 100%, but as we try to have equity, me having a laptop here compared to a student having to do the same work on a phone, to me, that we don't have equity there. But like I said,
you can use that cell phone as a hotspot. That hotspot can link it up with these Chromebooks we're giving these kids. All right, there's ways to use this technology. I was a flight engineer in the Air Force. Okay, there's a way to use this technology. Instead of just watching and say can't do it. Okay.
I will tell you though, and you got to think about this though. As much as we say, a lot of our kids have phone devices, it is true. But I'm telling you, there are quite a few that the reason why they have a cell phone in school is because they have access to Wi-Fi. The phone is actually it doesn't have service.
Okay. Yes.
So you know what I mean? So then it becomes the thing. And I think the district has to do their part. The state, the nation has to do the part to give them access. Now, if we can at least give them access and then they have the ability to, if they don't have a device, connect their phones, I think they can do certain stuff to a certain degree. But, there's and I've been reading this, there's a lot of inequities. And I think this has shown that.
Yes.
Depending the district, we're a district where we went remote, but we know we have a certain percentage that went back to paper and pencil and packets. You had to do that.
Right.
There are districts here in North Carolina and in probably around the US that they're lucky enough that pretty much they know everything is online. There's no paper and pencil.
Wow.
So they're fortunate that they have that. Now there's still inequities there, I'm sure.
Sure.
But that's one less thing they had to tackle was the lack of accessibility to online, which I think, at least in our particular group, we do have a good size portion of our student population that does not have access or have very limited, because where you and I work is very rural and the internet doesn't come in well. And I tell you, there's also inequities with teachers. I would be interested to find out with anybody kind of listening, what they've heard from their colleagues as far as access to internet. I don't know about you, but me and my wife both have been blessed, where we are in our careers, that we can afford unlimited access to internet.
Right.
So I don't have to worry about that. But I know not everybody's in the same position I'm in or we're in.
Right.
So, and I take that for granted sometimes. So, if you're a beginning teacher and, and if you have a family and we know it doesn't pay enough, sometimes you have to make that choice. Well, internet, I can't have it. I can only have a certain amount of internet a month.
Right.
So we have to, because now we're using it up. And the reality is you're using your own internet at home. You know what I mean? You're using your minutes from your cell phone sometimes to make calls. Sure. And that's not, that's something that's out of your pocket. Now, I don't know how you can calculate that, but that's the reality. So there's definitely a lot of things we have to tackle to try to make sure we catch kids up. And I think the content, the curriculum, we have that. You know what I mean? You have access to that. It's how to get that curriculum to them to be able to access. To me, it is one of the key questions on that. Let me talk a little bit, or let's switch a little bit to your program. So you and I kind of came in the same year. This is we're finishing up our second year. So tell me a little bit. I want to hear your transition. I'll give you my example. First day, first job as assistant principal, and I was at MSgt ROTC High School in Pitt County. Man, the bell rung, and I'm like, what the heck am I doing? I feel like I have no clue what I'm doing. So, but I had some great folks that I worked with. Letty, which was here last Friday, Micheletto really showed me the road. Patrick Green, he's a principal in Greene County. Jannard Cannon, another principal in Pitt County. And Charlie Langley, he was a principal, now retired in Pitt County. Great people to kind of model after. So tell me, I want to know a little bit about your first day at school when you first made the switch.
First day at school, we were not in session because we had all the required teacher work days. And so,
all right, so this is first student day.
All right, first student day was shocking to me. Shocking. A lot of kids came in with prior experience in the class. They had these ranks that they were saying, I'm Colonel this and I'm Sergeant this, and I'm looking at you and it's nice to meet you. I'm trying to equate names with faces and now rank. Okay. And these are high schoolers, and I was not used to the lack of control. Like when you would say something that needs to be done, they would spend about 10 minutes discussing it and talking about everything else. And then I said, let's do this work. And then I had to repeat it like 2 or 3 times. And then they got quiet to do the reading. And then ask some questions after the reading. And it was like, didn't you just read that? It was different for me because I had never been around a mass horde of teenagers. I raised with my wife 2 teenagers, and now they're young adults. But in a classroom environment, I'd never had that exposure. And so generally, if I had told a mass class of my Air Force people, all right, we're going to do this, it's going to get done. There's going to be some questions, okay, but it's going to get done. In 10 minutes, we'll come back, we'll talk about it. That didn't happen in the high school. No.
I hear you. I mean, it's definitely different. I tell you, for me, when my teacher career began in elementary, so I was fortunate because they were little. So the height alone, even though I'm not very tall, but it started with, I think the beginning day was either kindergarten or first grade. So, definitely I could assert my authoritativeness with me being 5'5" to those little ones. There were some elementary kids we were looking eye to eye, but that helped me. But I had problems with classroom management when I began. I tell the story one time. It was probably my second year or something. I don't know. And somehow I was in the art room. I didn't have the art room the whole time I was there, but big classroom, big giant rectangle, and somehow I had like 10 kids in corners. Principal comes in looks at it, turns around, starts laughing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get fired. She told me, she's like, Juan, you only have 4 corners. How can you have 10 kids? You know what I mean? So they were spaced out, corners, middle, and all this kind of stuff. So she's like, no, you got to build relationships. You got to work with it. You know, you can't. You punish them all the time. It's just going to be all for nothing. So little by little, and I tell people, I never became a great teacher. I think by the time I finished my career as a high school art teacher, I became a good teacher. Never a great teacher. I think now, knowing what I know now, I missed the boat in so many things. But that's why it's important to reflect and be honest. And maybe I just wasn't honest enough at the beginning with myself. But yeah, I mean, it's shocking. It's you know, the other hard thing sometimes, you alluded that, you know, as far as you come in this after your career in the military, and you know, you're talking to sometimes some of these young teachers, not to say anything, but it could be, you know, your son or daughters, and they may know more about it, you know, teaching than you do. And, you know, it's humbling experience that this young person may know more about this particular thing. And that was also a bit of a struggle sometimes at the beginning of my administrative career, when I had to go in and evaluate a teacher who's been teaching for 30 years. And this is my first year as an administrator. I'm going to tell you how to do, you know what I mean? And again, that also came with a little bit of lack of confidence. But knowing what I don't know now about instruction and curriculum and stuff, I have no problem talking to a 30-year vet as the same as a first-year vet in the teaching field. So yeah, I can imagine. So tell me some of the things that you know, that you're excited that you've been part of with the JROTC program in the last couple of years, and I want to also, because of this, what have you guys missed? How has it set you guys back?
Okay. I was going to mention it in our discussion about using that homeroom. As we did this past semester at the commencement of the semester, we didn't have the flex time program in order, and we had many days of homeroom. And in a way, because we don't teach homeroom, we developed relationships with those homeroom students, and to the point that actually, when I would walk in the hallways, I would have some of my homeroom teachers, homeroom students, reach out and say, "Dr. Coffey, good morning," and he reached out to me, and we actually acquired 2 homeroom individuals who came into the class because they were exposed to how Colonel Wingard associate and our relationship and what we're putting out. We got 2 kids in our class because of it.
Awesome.
And I treat all high schoolers as young adults. They're minors, they're kids, but I treat them as young adults because it won't be that long until they are 18. They're going to be on their own. And I talk to them one-on-one when they screw up, and when they're doing well, I acknowledge it as in public as possible. And I think that it might be a small accomplishment. They may have done something in another class not here that they did well. They got some acknowledgement in the civic community. I try to bring that out in the class so that, you know, you get an attaboy exposure. The things I think that work really well is when I see a kid who's got some background issues. They might have a rough home life, but in school they're superb. They're very compliant. They do everything we request them to do. They do their assignments. Yeah, they're high schoolers. They're gonna screw around a little bit. They're going to talk. You know, might be a little bit out of line. No kid's perfect, but for the most part, they excel. And I like how some of them don't really have a goal at the beginning of the semester, and through the semesters, I have built a relationship with them, and they are upfront with me and say, I'm still at a loss what I want to do. I know I'm going to graduate next year. I still don't know what I'm going to do. It's like, you know, progress forward, you know, captivate your interest and push forward to some goal. Because before you know it, you are going to be out of high school, and, you know, what's step 2? What are you going to do? So that's got to be always on the top of your mind. What are you going to do? And some kids get it. Not all, but some kids do. And I find that to be exciting. to
It
see how
is.
it's happening out in their lives.
It is when you see that, that they have a plan, an idea for the future, because high school hopefully doesn't last forever.
Right.
Right. So yeah, no, it's good. You feel like a little bit at ease, that they have an idea of what they want to do at the next level, because then okay, then they stand a shot at reaching whatever goal they have. Very cool. One thing, I guess, before, because we are coming up here to the end. I know one thing I was looking forward to, and I want to make sure I talk to, was the military ball this year that we did not get a chance to have. Is there any, I mean, I know it's so early. Any thoughts to some of those seniors that did not get an opportunity to attend, to possibly be invited next year, or I don't know where has that even crossed?
That's very feasible. And that would be out of the norm, but I think that's an excellent idea, because this year is unique, because unlike in years past, we're not having ball, and it takes a lot of planning. And Colonel Wingenard and also Sergeant Gepker and Sergeant Daniels, we're the instructor staff. However, we just guide these kids. We might throw some questions. Is that really practical? What's the background of that? What's your backup in case that doesn't happen or is successful? But overall, it's all the kids doing all the planning, all the interacting. They are going out there and assessing how much this is going to be, and who's going to hire this. And it's a teamwork concept. And we're not going to be able to make that up. However, I like your idea about inviting this current class back as guests. That would be a real good thing.
Yeah, it's possible. I think it's the least, because I would tell you, as we're working on graduation and we've done our survey on students, a lot of them said, can we hold off? Can we do graduation much later so we can have it? There's so much uncertainty that we can't answer that question right now, and we can't keep putting off graduation, because some kids, do you know how many of your current kids, or do you have any kids going on to the military?
Affirmative. Last count I had, there were a certain of 3. I know certain 3. But some of them kids from first semester, I have minimal interaction with them. And I do suspect there's about 2 of them in that category. But it was either going to go to a military college or they're going to join the military. So I don't know where they're at now. But
gotcha. And and I know you guys focus on Air Force, but to me, I think we also have to be extremely proud for the ones who choose, no matter what branch, to serve their country. And do that. And that's awesome that they choose to do that. And again, to me, that's why I find it so. And I use the word brave because I never joined. For them to do it out of their choosing. Now, they may have their reasons why they choose to do it, but thank goodness we live in a country where you can choose to go. Not that it's you have to do it because it's mandated or whatever it is. So to me, it's you choose to do that. I think to me there's a really good person in there wanting to help other people, wanting to get better, and we definitely have to support that. And I hope they always try to make their way back to school. And it's a great opportunity, to come back and talk to your class, and if they were in your class, or even stop by during lunch. I know some of them do that, because it is a great opportunity for some of our kids who may not go straight to college. I didn't have the means or the funds to go straight to university, so I ended up going to community college. But
in February, I believe it was right about middle of February, one of our alumni came back to visit us in his uniform, and he sought us out. He talked to Colonel Wingard and I, and it was so fantastic to see him in uniform. He had completed his basic training. He completed his A school, and he was en route now to go to his first command. And he had been maybe about 7 or 8 months, And the colonel and I would sometimes shake our heads. This boy's going to the Navy. You know what? He was a kid in high school. He's a kid. Got it. But you know what? He's doing it.
And you see so much growing up. I mean, that's one thing I think that the kids that, you know, I can't speak, but those of you that have been in the military that I've seen, it's just there's a level of maturity that occurs that the military can do for an individual. And I think it really helps them guide them for the rest of their life and build really good habits and traditions of, you know, moving forward. And you guys have such a brotherhood for the members of your service, your branch, and really help each other out. And you help all of the other, you know, branches and stuff. But, you know, for them, it's another opportunity to build relationships, build friendships. And so many successful people in life have a military background. That's the truth. You know what I mean? I mean, a lot of really successful people. So it's definitely a good avenue when our kids choose it. So, Master Sergeant Coffey, we are coming here to the end. I really do appreciate you coming in this morning. We'll have to do it again.
Okay.
You know, I think I'm doing this every morning. I think I'm going to do this till the end of the school year. Come summertime, I don't know if people want to get up this early, so I may downscale a little bit to a couple times a week or 3 times, or you know, something like that. Hopefully, so people can enjoy their, you know, their summer vacation. But I do appreciate you coming in this morning, talk a little bit about, you know, from what we need to do for kids to catch up next year, to your program, to our first day is, you know, in our jobs, how that went. It's good reminiscing. So again, I know you got to get to work already. I know you've already been sending out emails I've seen already. So with your kids. So
I do that.
Good. I appreciate that. So before we leave, a couple things. Somebody did make a comment about, you know, trying to find out how kids with IEPs and how, you know, some of their physical therapy, occupational therapy, or speech therapy is going. That's actually a good question. So if there's any EC teachers out there, I would love to get your perspective, how you feel you've been able to manage that. I know you may not be doing the actual, you know, physical therapy or speech therapy, but you know, how you've been trying to manage with some of the accommodations that you have with some of your students would be interesting to know. I just had another colleague here, Lily Beth. She's a Spanish teacher in Greene County. One thing actually I may do next week, and I will let people know, is I may actually do a broadcast in Spanish for some of my fellow Spanish teachers or non-English speaking folks out there. So I'll send the schedule for next week, and one of them may be in Spanish, just to try something different and get folks out here.
That's good idea.
Yeah, and then I know there was one other thing aside from the tomorrow is actually pretty cool. It's an international teacher in Costa Rica, and Susanna, and I'm going to talk to her about the day they found out they were going remotely. It's pretty interesting. So if you get an opportunity, check that out. She is a spark plug, but it was awesome to work with her. But yeah, if there's any EC teachers out there, let me know. Love to have a discussion about how that's going. So with that being said, Sergeant Coffey, this is Educators Drinking Coffee.
Yes,
you have a good rest of the day, and everyone else, and I'll see you all tomorrow at 8 o'clock.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.
You too.